Welcome back to the Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Brunetti. I'm Jake Dozer, certified financial planner and an advisor on the team here in Connecticut, joined as always by my partner up there in our Boston, Massachusetts offices, Nick Colantuno. Nick is also a certified financial planner and an advisor on the team there in our northern offices. We are back here, as we've been featuring recently, looking at questions from folks who are going through the stages of life that many of our clients are, which is going through, segueing into retirement, being in retirement, and talking about money. And a lot of times we get questions that are quite insightful, asking us, how do I navigate XYZ scenario? And so we feel that it's such a powerful thing to go through these real stories to understand and to be able to recognize our own situations and be able to navigate through them. So with that being said, we have a question from Lynette in Bristol. Lynette sent in a question and it says, my husband does everything regarding our finances, which has always worked for us in our marriage. Sounds similar to many of our clients. The problem is that our adult kids are a little worried about what would happen should one of us pass and want to know what kind of accounts we have set up. I feel so silly that I don't know what to tell them. And I think they're hesitant to ask my husband because he's always been so private and protective about it. What's the easiest way to navigate this? I think this is a common scenario that we navigate often. So, Nick, why don't you start us out? What should Lynette be looking to do? How should she facilitate this conversation best? Where do we go from here?
Lynette, it's really a fantastic question. And whether it's, I shouldn't say unfortunately or fortunately, but the reality of many couples is, it takes two to tango in everything. And oftentimes when we are sitting down with folks, when we're sitting down with couples who are looking to go down this financial planning process, we're asking the questions to both of them, but more often than not, one of the individuals is the one answering the questions. One of the individuals is the one who tends to usually, be responsible for having that information. And oftentimes, as our relationships with our clients evolve, it is very much an educational process,
Right.
making sure that both you and your spouse, Lynette, are on the same page when it comes to not only what's where, but what do all these different buckets mean? We've got accounts all over the place. Maybe they were set up with different advisors at different points in time when you two were probably in a very different phase of life. And it's just so important now when addressing the what ifs of the road ahead, you need to get on the same page. You need to make sure that you both have a very clear understanding of what's what and why and where and, just how your plan all fits together.
That's so true. What Nick pointed out there is that each and every person needs to have a plan. They need to have different buckets of money or different portions of their nest egg, if you will, working together in harmony to create a cohesive plan. And then I think what's most clear here is that it needs to be understandable and communicable. We say often to our clients is that I can create you a 100-page report. Nobody reads those. We believe in simple. A plan is only as good as it is actionable and understandable. And so to that end, it sounds to me, Lynette, that at least you, perhaps your husband, we're not sure, but at least you don't understand your plan. Maybe it's because you're not aware of it at all. Maybe it's because you haven't seen it clearly articulated into how everything works together. But either way, I think step one is you guys getting on the same page, because you can't explain something to your kids that you don't first understand. And I don't think that that's no one's fault. It's just the nature of many of the generations with whom we work have grown up in an era where talking about money is faux pas. But the way you ease tension and the way you solve problems and the way that you communicate to your kids that you're going to be okay, they don't care what type of accounts you have. They care that mom and dad are going to be okay. And it starts with having a plan. So if you don't have a plan, that's where to start first. Number two is if you do have a plan, then you and your husband getting on the same page and communicating about it and you sharing your heart of why that's important for you to understand. And furthermore, why it's important for the kids to understand. Nick, from there, once Lynette and her husband are on the same page, what's going to be some practical ways for them to communicate that then to their children? And how should, if at all, their children be involved with the process?
Involvement is key. And again, I even think prior to Lynette, you and your husband being on the same page, you need to make sure that wherever you're getting your advice from is being clearly communicated to you. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of jargon out there. And if whoever you're talking with or whoever is in this position where they're explaining to you the plan that, they've put in place for you, if you don't have an understanding of what that is, or if you can't repeat that back to them and tell them how your plan works, then how can you expect to one, understand it yourself, but two, to elaborate on that and then explain it to folks like your kids who weren't even in the room for that conversation in the first place. So whenever it does come down to, well, why isn't there a clear understanding of what's going on? Well, I always go back to, maybe it's the advisor you're working with. Maybe they're not clearly explaining what's going on to you. And I think that's a red flag in and of itself. But whenever looping kids in, I believe in visuals. Maybe kids are 3 and 4, right? Visuals matter. But even for our clients, just having everything clearly laid out simply on one page. That's why we love our money map. It's just a one-page plan. It very clearly and visually kind of lays out to our clients what's where and why it's there, and the tax worlds and the asset class, and all there I go with the jargon. But again, it's just a very simple and understandable way for you to understand, and then that makes it that much easier to then explain to the people that you love, who hopefully one day all this becomes theirs. So you want to make sure that there is an understanding there.
Are you ready to retire with confidence? Join us for our retirement planning workshop and learn strategies to maximize Social Security, healthcare, income planning, taxation, and more. Text workshop to 800-757-0436 to reserve your spot, or click the link in this week's show for more details on how to register.
That's right. And certainly the money that one has is primarily used to facilitate your enjoyment in retirement. And if you don't understand how it's working, or if it's working in the first place, and you don't have a trusted advisor or relationship with someone that can articulate how it works and why, you're not going to have the peace of mind to know that it can work. You're not going to have the freedom to know you can spend without fear of it hurting you. You're not going to be able to make informed decisions. And then furthermore, remember that, and this is a focal point of the financial planning that we do with our clients, remember that at some point, as Nick mentioned, this money is going to be theirs. Now, certainly that's for most folks not the primary objective, but it is a secondary objective. And the way that you make sure that Uncle Sam doesn't get more than he deserves, so to speak, is by making sure you're making an informed decision that not only benefit you, but benefit your heirs. And that's why functionally, a lot of times we encourage our clients, hey, by the time you're, perhaps late 60s, early 70s, we probably should meet your kids, and they should maybe come in for a review and sit with us so they can understand that mom and dad are okay. And again, it's not the mechanics. They don't need to know everything, but they do need to know that mom and dad have a plan. They need to walk away saying, I might not understand every jot and tittle, but I do understand that mom and dad are okay. They're with somebody that knows what they're doing. They have a plan that works for them. And there's an exit strategy for us when we inherit this money one day. And it's not going to be tenuous. It's not going to be a headache. It's not going to be burdensome. It's not going to be tax heavy if we can avoid those things. And that's really the heart of a plan. So Lynette, we wish you the best of luck. If you're hearing yourself saying, ooh, maybe that's a conversation we need to have, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help and provide resources that we can. Until next time, this is the Money Wisdom Podcast powered by John Spernetti. We'll see you soon.
Investment advisory services offered through JB Capital LLC. Insurance products offered through JN Financial LLC.